Ironside will not be seen tonight, so we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. This episode of Word Balloon is brought to you by AlexRossArt.com. Alex is a brand new graphic novel coming out from Marvel and Abrams Books. Fantastic Four, Full Circle. It comes out September 6th. It's a rainy night in Manhattan, and not a creature is stirring except for the Thing, Ben Grimm. When an intruder suddenly appears inside the Baxter Building, the Fantastic Four find themselves surrounded by a swarm of invading parasites. These carrion creatures, composed of negative energy, come to Earth using a human host as a delivery system. But for what purpose? And who is behind this untimely invasion? The Fantastic Four have no choice but to journey to the Negative Zone, an alien universe comprised entirely of antimatter, risking not just their own lives, but the fate of the cosmos. Fantastic Four, Full Circle is the first long-form work written and illustrated by acclaimed artist Alex Ross, who revisits a classic Lee Kirby story from the 60s and introduces the storyline for a new generation of readers. Bold, vivid colors, his trademark visual storytelling, Ross takes Marvel's first team of superheroes to places only he can illustrate. The book also features a special poster jacket with the front flap unfolding to reveal an all-new, fully painted origin story of the Fantastic Four. Again, Fantastic Four, Full Circle, out September 6th. For more details, go to AlexRossArt.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, as always, hopelessly in the dark. But happy to welcome Alex Segura and Rob Hart to Word Balloon, two great crime novelists that are joining forces together for a brand new comicsology story, Blood Oath. But we'll talk about that in a second. Alex, Rob, good to see you.
Hey, John, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
My pleasure, man. Not the first time you guys have gotten together. You put your two detective characters together for a joint novel, didn't you? Back in the past.
Yeah, we wrote this novella called Bad Beat, which was a crossover between my private eye, Pete Fernandez, and Rob's Ash McKenna. And I think it really came from a place of comic book love. Like, I think we were at dinner after an event, and we just were wondering aloud, like, why don't PI characters cross over like comic book characters? And then we just dove into it. That's how I remember it. It was a while ago.
Yeah. No, it was a fun process. Like, we were lucky in the sense that both of our characters were at the same publisher, so it wasn't like some big like crazy thing to try to get them together. And when we pitched it to our publisher, he was like, yeah, I'll do that as a like they did it as a digital short, and it was we found pretty quickly that we work really well together. Which I think is in part because we're both former journalists. Mm-hmm. So we're both like, we both understand that like the story's got to win in the end, and neither of us really has an ego about it.
Yeah, it was very, very quick work. It was a quick jam session. We just took turns, and I think that when you find an easy collaborator, that's always pleasant. Like, comics is a marathon. Like, it's not a sprint to get to a project done. So and Rob learned that lesson on Blood Oath.
I did.
So, it was. I knew the writing would never be challenging because we just collaborate well.
Well, that's great. And so, Bad Beat, is it a digital short story, or did it come out as a hard novella as well?
It's digital only. I think you can get it on Kindle. And I've toyed with the idea. I did another one with another crime writer called Dave White and his PI Jackson Dunn, and I just haven't had. I'm done with Pete, so I haven't really had much space to think about other crossovers. But if we collect enough, I'll put it out as a book. Or
that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And forgive me again, because you guys, Alex knows I'm a nerd when it comes to old time radio. Mm-hmm. And yeah, look at him. He's like, yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
Years ago, and it's great. On the radio anthology show Suspense, they did a sequel to the Maltese Falcon called The Candy Tooth. Huh. And Howard Duff was playing Sam Spade regularly on radio. And Robert Montgomery was the host of Suspense, just the MC that would lead the show. And they had a brief moment where, to check on facts, Sam Spade calls Philip Marlowe. on the phone.
That's cool.
And so you got Montgomery playing Marlowe, and you got Howard Duff, who was a very capable Sam Spade. I mean, nobody's Bogart, but actually those shows are fun. And really, Montgomery, I don't think he ever played him on radio, but of course, the great movies he made is Philip Marlowe and stuff. So it's cool. It was kind of cool and everything. So I kind of thought of you guys when it came to that kind of crossover. That's great.
We wrote it as a prequel. So, if you read Bad Beat, it kind of tees you up for New York, which is the first Ash book, and Silent City, which is the first Pete book, but it doesn't disrupt from that reading experience. It was fun. It was just something we did on a lark that really kind of also taught us that we could collaborate really well together.
Yeah.
And then Rob, how did this interest in getting with Alex? I mean, Alex obviously has been writing a lot of comics, both for a lot of the regular publishers, but also on his own, doing his Comixology originals and stuff. What intrigued you about doing Blood Oath with Alex?
Well, I mean, I've always wanted to work in comics. Like that's always been a goal of mine. I grew up on comic books, and as much as I love writing novels, it was always like, man, I would kill to get the chance to write a comic. And Alex had reached out, with this idea of something mashing up the mob with vampires, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to jam on this?" And I think probably within like an hour, we had pretty much the entire thing kind of like beaten out. It was a quick process. That part was a quick process, and then we entered the multi-year process of actually trying to make it happen.
Yeah, it was interesting because, I mean, I'm a firm believer, and Rob is the same, in that if you write something you're passionate about or something you have some obsessive connection to, the writing, it's not easy, but it definitely flows faster than something that feels like a homework assignment. And, we're both, I am kind of like an organized crime history obsessive, and Rob has read a lot of supernatural stuff, and I know the vampire stuff in a basic way, but it was really a good overlap of our tastes and what we wanted to write about. The lead character's from Staten Island, which is where Rob's from, and we really wanted, I think once we talked about the high concept, like Boardwalk Empire meets vampires, that really set the tone for us, and that was the first thing we really nailed down, was the high concept, and everything else flowed from there. But how do you argue with that? I think we told our film agent that, and she just was like, "I need this right now. I need you to finish this."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's so, that's great to hear, because I also hear conflicting things from Hollywood that nobody wants period pieces right now and stuff. And it's like, come on, man, this stuff is great. And there's, I mean, really, I thought obviously of the Untouchables and Elliot Ness, and was it Elmer? I know his first name was Elmer. Who was the other federal lawman that was after Capone? It was Elmer something.
Elmer something, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We got to call Max Collins. Max Collins would have the name like in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, so, he may be writing about him as we speak.
So, and forgive me, Alex, I'm curious. Did Chip Mosier, did he greenlit this? Is there someone new in charge of Comixology Originals? Do you have a name that I can lean on?
Bryce Gold is the new head of Comixology Originals, and Bryce worked under Chip.
Yes,
while Chip was there. But Chip greenlit this. I mean, I did Black Ghost with him and Monica and George Cambadeas on art, and we were working on the second season, and we were just talking about, the publishing journey for Blood Oath was interesting, and it's probably not something we can share in extreme detail on a podcast, but there are a lot of like peaks and valleys. You pitch it around, you get feedback, you think you're going to close a deal and you don't close a deal, but that's also just publishing 101. So Chip liked the idea. He was happy to work with us. We, Joe Eisma and I worked together on the Archies for a long time, and he's just a really great, versatile artist. And Heather Antos was our editor. So it was really an all-star team once we kind of put the lineup together. And I like working with Chip. I think Comixology was really hands-off. They trusted us to do the best story we could. And the product, I'm pretty proud of the end result.
That's excellent. Rob, you said you're a longtime comic book fan and wanted to get in the biz. Who are some of your favorite heroes?
Well, I mean, I would do literally anything to write Superman. I grew up on Superman. Like, I actually remember like the first. I mean, I read comics here and there, I guess, when I was a kid. But I remember like one Christmas, my dad got me The Death of Superman, like the big Superman number 75, and I like that was like transformative for me. And then it turned into like this like ridiculous hunt of like, oh my God, I want to read everything about this character. And so yeah, Superman was a big one, Batman, Spider-Man, sort of like the big ones, obviously. But I was also like, I was a big Green Lantern fan for a while. I kind of leaned a little bit more DC than I did Marvel. But I've sort of like come a little bit back more toward Marvel recently. So yeah, it's just like it's incredible to like actually work in that medium because it was so different for me,
Yeah, and obviously Alex can help you out as far as breaking down a comic script versus a regular prose script and everything. But yeah, tell me the challenges that you found in terms of translating. Or again, did you like kind of leave it to Alex because he was, used to the process?
No, Rob went through the crash course. I'm curious to hear the answer too.
Well, in fairness, I feel like I wrote my first like solo script for an issue. I think I wrote number 2, and then I sent it to you, and like the edits and the difference, like because mine were very bare bones because I guess I was still kind of learning how to like present all that. But it was also, it's not just a collaboration between me and Alex; it's also a collaboration with the artist. So we're doing what we're doing, but also leaving room for them to interpret. So it's kind of doing that, but also thinking a little bit more in terms of like dialogue and slightly more in visuals and framing and how like just the pacing of it, like how many like as soon as I had to sit there and go, okay, how many panels is this page gonna have, my brain just kind of went a little screwy.
Yeah.
But no, I honestly like again, like this is something I've always wanted to do, and I was so immensely lucky to be able to do it with Alex because he's a pro.
Oh, thanks.
So it was like I was working with a friend who also knew exactly what he was doing, and I mean I walked out of that with like a much better understanding of how this stuff works.
Now you're in good hands
on your own.
Exactly.
That's let's hope so, Rob. Good for you guys.
Yeah, one of the things that was interesting, John, sorry to interrupt you, is we wrote it Marvel style, which is to say we wrote a page breakdown for Joe. Obviously, Heather would look at it before it went to Joe, and it would have camera angles and notes and still be broken up by panels, but it was looser than a traditional script. And then Joe would do the layouts and the pages, and we would go back and do a lettering script for dialogue and captions and kind of tighten up the stuff that was already there. But I do that with all my creator-owned stuff just because I find that it's a more collaborative way to work with an artist. You kind of let them, it's like you're playing music together. You let them do their thing and jam with you as opposed to giving them the strict edict of, panel 1, page 1, panel 1 has to be this. Like, and everyone has your bandwidth everyone's different. Your mileage may vary or what have you. But this worked out really well with Joe, who I've known for a long time, and we both trusted to kind of do it, and do it well. And we didn't have to worry that he was going to go off the rails and do something that we didn't expect.
Did Joe do this cover?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, he did like really nice painterly covers, which does it. You had to guess, right? It doesn't really look like traditional Joe stuff. Like he really like changed his style. And the interiors pair him with Hillary Jenkins, who's a fantastic colorist, and her style is also much more, I guess, painterly. A little, there's more depth to it. It not, it just feels different. It feels like Joe really leveled up with this one.
You'll forgive me. I had to blow my nose for a
second.
Nobody needs to hear it. That's all right. I want to acknowledge the chat. And Magic K already asked. I didn't know this, Alex. You've got a Return of Kal-El story in the Return of Kal-El special coming.
Yeah, it's coming out in November. It's my first DC work since I worked at DC the first time. So it was it's really interesting to be there as talent now, which is kind of exciting. And I'm moderating the Superman panel at New York Comic Con. I'm also a panelist.
Hey, great.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm also a member. Yeah, or whatever that commercial was. Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be neat, and it'll definitely be. I mean, John, you've known me since I was doing publicity at DC and before, so it was. It'll definitely be an interesting kind of putting on a familiar hat, but also in a different way. So that'll be neat.
Who's on the panel?
Josh Williamson, Dan Jurgens, and Mark Russell.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it'll be good.
They're all good guys. They're all word balloon regulars. That's excellent, and good stewards of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you say who your story is about in the story yet? Or
I can't yet. I can't. Okay. Yeah,
no problem.
Soon,
no problem.
It'll be cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Rob was telling me he's going to show up in New York Comic Con over the weekend and at least spend a day there or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm thinking of bringing my daughter. She's 7, and like the Javits is going to be a lot because the Javits is the worst place on earth. But
dude, I hear you. Oh my God!
Like the only thing New Yorkers can all agree on is that the Javits is terrible. But
I'm gonna have a table. Yeah, I'll see you there.
Yeah, I think she's finally old enough that I think she would get a real kick out of it, and she would recognize some of the characters. So, yeah, I think I'm going to give that a shot.
Hey, man, I was like 4 or 5, and they took me to before it was called Toys R Us. It was called Bargain Town. Once again, showing my age.
Wow.
But Clayton Moore was there in his full Lone Ranger regalia. It was before they took the mask away from him. And as far as I was concerned, I met a superhero that day. And I know that's one of the reasons why comics still fascinate the hell out of me, because it's like, well, I've met the Lone Ranger. My God, I met a real live hero, for God's sake. So
that's awesome.
And then, she can't read the comic book that I'll be promoting.
That's all right. That's
not yet. Not yet.
Doubt points out indeed that I believe you're right. Doubt, it was Elmer Ire was in fact the guy. Yeah, Elmer Lincoln Ire was that other great crime buster of the 20s and stuff. And it's funny, Doubt also says, and he's right, and I know it from my dozen or so New York Comic Cons over the years. The Javits Center is a nightmare for New York Comic Con. Toy Fair is so much easier to deal with there. Yeah, and in fairness to Reed, and if they're listening and watching, and they might be, I would say separate the anime manga show from New York Comic Con, and we'll have more breathing room, because ever since they merged them, it's become just a nightmare. So.
Yeah, I think they've done a lot to improve kind of the area around the Javits. So it's not, I think the first few years of New York Comic Con, it was very desolate and isolated, but now you can actually walk outside and maybe get to a restaurant without walking like 4 avenue blocks.
I have heard that. I have. Yeah. And, just like that McCormick Place here in Chicago for C2E2, they finally built things up. We always had Chinatown. That was a reasonable, close, thing. But they've really built up around McCormick Place as well.
Did you do the Rosemont show back when Wizard was doing it? Yeah, I think we ran into each other there. I used to work that show at Wizard when I was working at Wizard.
Did I see you at Fan Expo this year? Really?
No.
Oh, I was going to say because, but yeah. Oh no, I used to go to the Wizard show all the time. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, man. Oh no, we absolutely did, man. Because again, as you said, especially in your DC publicity years, absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to C2E2 because it's the backyard. I went to Fan Expo the same way, and really the only other show I did was Terrificon in Connecticut, because Mitch Halleck is a good friend, and he always invites me there, and I end up getting to moderate a bunch of panels and have interviews with people I never have had on the show before.
Yeah, so I need to make it out to that show. That's a good show.
But yeah, man, it drives me nuts, man. I'll stay with friends, really good friends, and I do love New York. But you get off at diagonal from the Javits Center on the subway and everything, and then they make you walk around the goddamn entire Javits Center before they let you in. And I'm sorry, man, I'm getting old, and it's like, Christ, I'm tired already, and I'm just walking through the front door. This sucks.
Yeah, that's where they're gonna soften you up.
But that's all right. I'm sure everyone's gonna have a good time.
Yeah, it'd be great.
And and I just want to put a little more COVID behind me before I venture out to New York, especially after San Diego. I don't know, Alex, were you in San Diego?
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
Okay, because everyone. I said don't soul kiss John Layman, and you won't get COVID. And nobody listened to me. So what are you going to do? Obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
This is really for both of you. Although this anonymous Facebook user will ask, Alex, have you ever committed a crime?
I think the most criminal thing I've done is get a speeding ticket.
All right, there you go. Yeah. All right, Rob.
Why would I admit to that in public? Good God!
I only admit to mine because I paid it off.
No comments. Pleading the fifth.
But maybe in terms of writing crime and everything, have you guys? And again, as reporters as well, were you on the crime beat? Did you go to police stations and whatever in terms of investigating that side of crime at all?
I did a lot of cops and fire. So yeah, I got involved in a lot of that stuff, which was always both really interesting and sometimes really soul crushing. I definitely have also picked up some fun habits, as a crime fiction writer. It's actually the thing that I fiddle with while I'm on podcast or on Zooms is a lock pick. Huh. So I just sit here picking the lock over and over again, which is kind of a fun skill to have.
Sure.
I did a lot of municipal reporting, city council meetings and things like that, or, general assignment. I was an intern reporter for 8 months and then a copy editor. And so you kind of see pretty much everything at that point. But even at those city council meetings, they deal with cop stuff. But I was never on the cop beat. though that sounded pretty interesting.
Am I right, Alex? You were in Miami?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Rob, where were you writing newspapers?
I was on Staten Island.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Stuff happens there.
Yep.
Absolutely. And you guys, did you both go to Boucher, the crime novelists convention recently?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me how the show was.
It was fun. It was big first day at camp vibes because it was all of us seeing each other for the first time in years. And, I had a blast. I was there for like 4 days. Alex, you kind of like dove in and dove out. It's like I saw you in the lobby for 10 seconds and you were like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, it was a very surgical trip. I mean, it was the first week of school for the kids, so I wasn't like really able to kind of hop off for that long. But
sure,
I'm also coming from a Comic-Con background, like those events where you're scheduled back to back to back, like I work better when I know I can hit the ground running, do the 10 things I need to do, and then leave. And I think BoucherCon is a much more laid back show than a Comic-Con, whereas you maybe have a panel a day and the rest of your time is you're hanging out at the bar, you're hanging out, you're having lunch, you're having dinner. And I'm not criticizing anyone. I just figured, let me smush my stuff together, maximize the trip. And it was good to see everyone. It was nice.
Just as Rob said, that is literally how I always describe Comic-Con in terms of it's very expensive summer camp because it's all of our out-of-town friends and we're all together. Yep. That's great. And yeah, man, no. So I absolutely hear you. That's outstanding. So where was BoucherCon this year?
Minneapolis. Okay. I'd never been. Had you been, Rob? Or?
This is like the lamest like New Yorker thing to say, but like I was looking around and I'm like, maybe I've been here. I don't know. All these like Midwest cities look the same to me.
I mean, I don't feel like I've seen the city. I was there for like 24 hours and was in the hotel most of the time.
Well, that's the thing. When you're at a conference, you never see the city. It's like me and a couple of people. I think the furthest I ventured is like me and a few other writers. Like we found a steakhouse nearby and like went and had a nice dinner. But that was like 4 blocks away, and that was the furthest I went the entire time.
Which do you guys remember the name of the hotel that it was at?
It was at like a Hilton.
Yeah.
Like a downtown Hilton.
Hilton, Minneapolis.
I stayed at one of their like historic hotels. The radio company that I used to work for, their parent radio stations were based in the Twin Cities. So we had a big network, or not network, but company-wide retreat for a couple days. And really, the Twin Cities are beautiful. It really, and luckily you guys went when it was nice out.
Yeah.
Christ, Chicago gets nasty and nastier than New York. Like Minneapolis, St. Paul is another 20 degrees, colder than, the single digits we get here in Chicago and stuff. So I can only imagine and wish for the best for my Twin City friends. But I like it. It's a pretty city.
Yeah, the weather wasn't bad. I mean, it was a little rainy when I came in, but it's, some of the other authors said it was nicer the day before. Then the day after it was pretty nice.
I got to, hopefully at some point, BoucherCon will be, has it ever been in Chicago?
Not that I recall, though. I know there's a Midwest Mystery Conference that is in Chicago.
Oh,
that weekend of November 5th. You should go to that, actually.
Oh man, yeah, I might have to. Hi, buddy. Oh, adorable.
She always puts in a cameo appearance.
That's good. No. It's welcome.
It's
welcome. No, she looks adorable. That's fantastic, man. No, I would love to go. Again, I'll bug you on email on that. I do remember Boucher was in Milwaukee a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, no, they had Murder and Mayhem in Milwaukee for a few years, and that
was a really fun one.
Yeah, that was always fun, and it spun off into Chicago, and it was Murder and Mayhem in Chicago, but now it's like the Midwest Mystery Conference, which is a one-day, single track programming, which is, I guess, biz talk for just one panel after the other, as opposed to like competing panels, and it's good. I'll be there. It should be interesting.
Oh, hey, great, man.
Yeah,
there you go.
Even if you don't go to the show, I'll bug you.
Please, man. No, we'll have dinner. 100%.
Yeah.
Of course. Jesus Christ. And Rob, the same invitation. Should you hit Chicago, man? We definitely got to hang out.
Yeah,
Let's talk about Blood Oath. So again, you've got a female protagonist. This is set in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So as you said, Boardwalk Empire meets vampires. What else do you want to tell us about the characters in the book,
Rob?
Well, I thought it was kind of cool to we wanted to have someone who I think was completely on the outside of everything. so that you're kind of seeing, you're kind of getting that element of surprise and learning about it through their eyes. So it was a fun idea to like set it through like this woman's perspective. Her name is Hazel and she owns a farm down on Staten Island, where because she used to date a mobster, like they had a deal where the mob was using her farm as like a stash house. Like, the booze was coming in onto the shore and then hidden there until it was taken into the rest of the city. And sort of starting in this remote location where we could have like this big crazy violent vampire attack, but then kind of like spin it out from there into different locations and meet different characters. It was a ton of fun. And I was rereading the whole series the other day, and it's like, yeah, it's like I don't even think people know what's in store for this. This is going to be a lot of fun. Is it good? It's not bad. We did okay.
It holds up. It holds up.
Yeah.
And one of the things we kind of toyed with, obviously, this is before the 5 families were established, the 5 mob families, but the running kind of idea was, what if there was a secret 6th family that was vampires, and what if this gang, in the era of the gangs of New York, had created a deal with the real gangs of New York to kind of a non-aggression treaty. And then what happens when a hot-headed vampire breaks that treaty and throws everything into disarray? And it was fun to explore, like, what are our vampire rules? What are our magic rules? And we definitely didn't want, we wanted to take a little bit from the Anne Rice book, but we also wanted to treat them as the monsters they are. So it was a nice synergy of these regal creatures that are also monsters and really age in a pretty unique way that doesn't just, it felt very different from other takes on vampires that I think people will see as you read more. But suffice to say, they attack the farm for a very specific reason, and that's what you kind of learn as the series goes on, and as Hazel starts to chase them down for very personal reasons of her own. But she's caught in the middle. She's just the go-between that's making extra money to kind of keep her parents are gone, and she's keeping the farm afloat, supporting her sister and her boyfriend and all these things. And then suddenly, all hell breaks loose.
Understood. That might give you a hint of some of the characters we could see in Blood Oath. How many issues, guys?
5.
Okay, very good. And has it started, or?
Yeah, the first issue's out on Comixology. If you have an Amazon Prime or Comixology Unlimited account, you can read it for free, or you can buy it like a la carte, and it'll be in print from Dark Horse next year. So that's exciting as a trade.
Outstanding. That's great, man. No, and again, I'm really glad that Bryce, right? Bryce Gold.
Yeah, Bryce. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they're still doing it, because again, I think what they've established at Comixology for these originals, it's a great opportunity for creators. But it's also just great stories. I mean, experienced hands like yourself and Joe, mm-hmm. and bringing in newcomers like Rob certainly helps. And I know a lot of my other friends that are writers and artists that are there. They're bringing in their friends and giving first opportunities along with established hands. And it's just another great arm of comics. So I will say this. This is my editorial comment. I know there are people that have been frustrated with comics. Well, since Amazon has absorbed more of the infrastructure of Comixology, that has changed. But the one good thing that I think has come from this arrangement has been this initiative of stories from Comixology, these originals and stuff.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're getting like 5 or 6 new Scott Snyder books with A-list artists like Jamal Igle and Dan Panosian and Francesco Francavilla and obviously Greg Capullo. So for us, for our little book to kind of be in that same bucket is huge, because that, it's people are coming for that, and then they hopefully see Blood Oath, and that piques their interest. And the same goes for Black Ghost. So it was neat. It was neat. For the first time ever in my career, I had 2 books launched the same week. So Black Ghost 1 and Black Ghost Season 2 #1 and Blood Oath #1 came out together. And that was just neat. It was just neat, and it felt good to have that support from Comixology, and it'll be great to have them in print too. And I think that was the missing piece for a long time, that people weren't sure where these books were going to go after, they're up digitally, but then what? And, some readers only buy in print, and now they're serving all the parts of it.
I'm sorry, I didn't grab an image of that. No, please, Rob, make a comment.
Oh, it was just funny that, like, because Alex had 2 comics coming out like the same week, they were calling it Segura week. And I was like, this is great. I will ride these coattails all day long.
Yeah, just mildly embarrassing, but it was fun. It was cool, but also kind of embarrassing. Sweet. Yeah, it was very nice.
What can you tell us about Season 2 of Black Ghost, Alex?
So season 1 ends up with a new status quo, and kind of Lara Dominguez is accepting her fate as the new Black Ghost of Creighton, but she's not without her problems, and so the new season starts off a little bit later. She's gotten into the routine of being the Black Ghost, and she's trying to balance her new life in recovery and also her career as a reporter with this new vigilante role she's taken on, just as a new villain shows up called Harrow, who is hell-bent on offing a lot of key city figures that have ties to something that happened in the past. So she has to uncover the mystery before more bodies drop, but also she gets a message from the last person she expected to hear from, the original Black Ghost, who died in the first series. So,
oh my, all right, very
hilarity,
cool.
Hilarity ensues.
Hilarity ensues, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned Snyder. I'll be talking to Snyder next week.
Oh, Tom, I said hi.
Stuff. So absolutely, man. Looking forward to that. Rob, do you have any novels coming up?
Well, me and Alex are working on something else that will probably be announced soon, but I can't say anything about that yet. So yeah, that's kind of like the next gig, and it's fun to just like be now collaborating on something that's a little bit different.
I think you'll dig it, John. It's in your sci-fi wheelhouse.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. I look forward to hearing about that. That'll be great. Well, you guys are welcome to come back when you announce the new book.
Cool.
So that would be great. How about Microface, Alex? Has it ramped up, or is there still more to come?
It's done. You can buy the one shot on the NPR website. I'm kind of in the process of figuring out how we can do more. It was such a kind of one-off. Like NPR did it not as a lark, but it was a byproduct of the podcast. But I set up the story basically teeing up a whole almost universe of characters. So there's more. I mean, it ends with Microface kind of beginning his quest to find these weapons and figure out who's been, which of these public domain hero weapons are falling into the wrong hands. So yeah, I have a rough idea for another arc. It's kind of, the list is long, the to-do list is long, but hopefully we'll get there. And we just announced I'm doing an Aranya and Spider-Man 2099 novel for Marvel, so that'll be cool.
Hey, that's great!
Yeah,
wow, shit. All right, Miguel O'Hara.
Yeah, Miguel O'Hara, who
fantastic, man. And it's a novel.
It's a novel. It's a YA novel coming out from Marvel Press, and it's coming out in May of next year. And it's cool. I came up with a fun little twist on they've not really interacted that much in the comics, but it felt like a really interesting way for them to learn from each other. Like Miguel is kind of the more jaded, experienced hero of the future, and Anya Corazon, who's Aranya, is as the rising star trying to figure out how to be a hero without a mentor. And so it's a fun, like, kind of time hopping adventure. And it was just neat. I mean, Miguel O'Hara is a great character, and definitely for me, as like a Cuban kid in Miami reading comics who loves Spider-Man, like seeing a Latinx Spider-Man was awesome and so cool to, like, identification is so important to anybody. Like, you see yourself in a character, it means so much. Like, and so that meant a lot to me. So to be able to write these characters has been a trip. And I got to write Aranya and the Edge of Spider-Verse #1. So it's kind of neat synergy at that point.
That's great. I just talked to Stuart Moore about some of his Marvel novels that have been coming out recently. And I hear what you're saying. And also, hey, I love Miles. Miles Morales is a terrific character.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that Marvel has found a reason to bring Miguel back.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, I'm a Greek guy, but I just love the novelty of a new Spider-Man. And that's what Spider-Man 2099 represented. And it was, like, great.
Yeah, it was a great comic. Fantastic. I mean, Peter David and Rick Leonardi, it was just really good. Leonardo.
God, I'd love to see brought back. And, I mean, Bendis kind of gave him a bit of a more, kind of sadder end result. And, in fact, introduced a new character coming out of that. But I would love to see the original White Tiger, George Perez's old character.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm writing a White Tiger short for the new Marvel. Sorry, I don't mean to be that guy that's like, and this, and this, and this. Like,
no, I'm glad to hear it, man.
Yeah, no, Marvel's doing another Comunidades one-shot, which is part of the Marvel Voices series, but I've got a White Tiger short in there, and we're introducing a new character called Chimera, that she's tied into the White Tiger world in some way, and so that'll be a fun setup.
That's cool. That's excellent.
Yeah, and Roge Antonio is doing the art, and he's fantastic.
Good to hear. Rob, any like beyond Superman? Are there? I always love to talk about and hear what people like as far as the people further down on the roster, the elongated mans, the Phantom Strangers, people like that. Any of those ever pique your interest as far as comic characters?
I feel like I could do a good Plastic Man. Plastic Man would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Anything sort of set on the outskirts of like the Green Lantern Corps would be a lot of really cool too.
There
I
you
would
go.
love to sort of do something like not with one of like the main characters necessarily, but something like kind of like on the outskirts of that. And,
Sure.
no, it's like, and that's the thing. It's like, obviously it would be fun to write the All Stars, but it's like I would write Ragman. Like, give me anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Give me anyone that I can have some fun
See,
with.
Rob, there you go, man. I love Ragman. I think Ragman's a fantastic character that's way underused. And it's funny you mentioned Plastic Man. It doesn't surprise me because I think a lot of real crime fans know that before he became goofy and silly and stuff, you go back to those original stories and everything, and it was in police comics for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, and he's, reformed criminal and every Yellow Brian.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's, and every now and then Mark Waid and others have, kind of dipped back into that past of Plastic Mans and stuff. But no, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of potential, and as well as the fun stuff. I mean, my friend Hilary Barta had a great run on Plastic Man back in the
that's right,
early '80s and stuff, and everybody,
Kyle Baker,
Kyle Baker, absolutely, man. So yeah, no, that's again, I appropriately you could do a lot. He's very versatile, much like Silly Putty.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly. He showed up. He shows up a couple times. I've been rereading the Jim Aparo Brave and the Bold stuff, and he shows up, and those issues are pretty bonkers. Like Bob Haney is underrated by far. Like some of the stuff he wrote was really off the wall.
Dude, all those Brave and Bolds that he would write, and Murray Boltonoff, if I'm saying it right,
the
editor and stuff, they didn't care about continuity. It's like, hey, Batman and Sergeant Rock sounds great, do it.
Well,
Fantastic.
Stuff would change. Some of the characters would reappear within 12 issues, and their entire backstory would be different. Especially Ted Grant, like at one point owned an island, and in the next issue he was working and doing PR for some company. And I was like, okay, this is inconsistent, but also this is a blast, and nobody cares about the consistency of it.
And it was Earth 1 Wildcat because it wasn't like Earth 2 Batman stories, or they never really.
Right.
I don't think they ever referred to him being part of the Justice Society or anything like that. So yeah, just again, that was my introduction to Wildcat was in Brave and Bold. I totally hear you, man. You're killing me, man. That's hilarious. Fantastic.
That was my vacation reading a couple weeks ago, just like those big like Aparo omnibuses.
Oh, absolutely. That's great. I'm looking at my my bookshelf right now, and I've got that omnibus definitely. I loved the showcase. They were on that really cheap black and white paper and everything. But I love that they did that because I just want to read the stories.
Yeah. I love the Marvel. The Marvel Essentials were really helpful to me too. Absolutely. As a kid, just reading like those early Lee Ditko, Spidey stuff, and FF by Kirby and Lee. Yeah.
Are you indoctrinating your daughter, Rob, into the superhero world at all?
A little bit, yeah. She watches like the DC teen stuff that's been coming out, and we have some of the comics from that. I have been working her into graphic novels, like the Babysitter Club graphic novel. She is a huge fan of, and it's nice kind of getting her started on that. We're still working on like, we watched some of Miss Marvel, which she enjoyed parts of, and then other parts when it got a little too talky, she got a little bored. But she said it. But yeah, no, she's slowly working her way in there, and it's pretty exciting to share that with her.
That's great. Any other streaming shows? And it doesn't have to be Marvel or DC. We're blessed with a lot of great crime. I haven't watched Tokyo Vice yet on HBO Max.
I need to watch that. Yeah.
It looks amazing.
We were pretty loyal Better Call Saul viewers, and that was I thought it really stuck the landing in a way. Even I thought the Breaking Bad finale was great. This was, I thought, better. I thought, I did not expect Better Call Saul to be better than Breaking Bad, but in retrospect, it was stronger. And Rhea Seehorn was a revelation as Kim. My son and I have been reading the Batman Adventures books, which I think are super underrated, like those the Kelly Puckett, Mike Parobeck stuff from when the animated series launched. I mean,
in the 90s.
Sometimes a little too violent. I mean, and that was in its own way a reason for me to do the Dusk, like to kind of create a version of that was a little more kid friendly, or less about like punching people and throwing them in jail. But he digs it, and it's kind of the essence of those characters, and it's it's like what makes those characters great as opposed to them being really tied into continuity or anything.
I felt that way also about Mark Miller's Superman adventure stories that he did.
I think we're going to pivot to that next at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, I hear you, man. Absolutely. No, that's great. Only Murders in the Building. Did you guys enjoy?
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
It's light.
You know what's really good that I've been digging that I just watched the latest episode today is The Patient. Have you guys heard about this?
My wife watched the first episode and she said it was creepy as hell.
Oh, it's super creepy, but it's also like darkly funny and weird. But like it's basically like, and it's so small that you can almost do it as a play. But it's basically like a serial killer who kidnaps his therapist and keeps him in his basement and is like trying to get him to cure him. And it's Steve Carell as the therapist and Domhnall Gleeson as the serial killer. And it's such a brilliant premise. And it's like an acting showcase. It's so much fun to watch.
Wow,
that's great,
very creepy.
And isn't it interesting that the game has moved to television, and now movies struggle to make an impact. And for decades, it was the reverse. And really, movies, obviously were the parent kind of medium before television and was the superior storytelling medium. And now, honestly, I see more quality on streamers than I do in the theaters as far as really intelligent movies and or stories, I should say, in general.
Yeah, I think it just says. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's just so weird that like I'll look at like I'll be flipping around like the streamers and I'll be like, oh, that movie is 2 hours and 12 minutes. I'm not gonna watch that. But then I'll watch like the entire first season of The Bear in one day, which takes like 4 or 5 hours, and it's like it doesn't make sense. Maybe having those like it's kind of having those breaks in there that I can like reasonably like get up and like, oh, I'm going to go do something else and like make dinner and then I'll come back. And
100%. No, and coming from a Greek restaurant family, I love in Chicago. I love The Bear. Bear's an amazing series. Absolutely, man. Peter Beiser. I haven't had a chance yet. The first 3 episodes of Andor dropped today, the Star Wars show, and he says good stuff. Alex, you're familiar with the Star Wars world. Have you had a chance yet to dip in?
I haven't watched them all. I've started the first one, but I'm such a terrible TV viewer. Like, I hate to admit that. Like, but it's just especially when I'm working on a book. Like, time is so tight. Especially with the kids, and I don't know. Now writing is my day job, so that's good. But, that stuff gets absorbed. Whatever open pockets of time get absorbed pretty quickly. But Better Call Saul, I've been watching a lot of, and a lot of cartoons with the kids when they're home and need some entertainment. But back to your question, I think you just have more story breathing room with television. You can kind of you're more flexible. You don't have to fall into that bucket of 2.5 hours to tell a beginning, middle, and end. You can do a 9-episode season or a 15-episode season or a 6-episode season. And it's really what serves the story. Though I do think, the glut of shows on streamers, it's getting harder to kind of find the great stuff. Maybe I'm alone in that. And I think sometimes I see a lot of shows that should have just been 1 season or could have been a movie that end up being 2 or 3 seasons. And you're like, they're just kind of filling out the contract or just filling out because they can. And, it's just more stuff to wade through, but it's good. It's like I'm not complaining about having options to choose from.
Sure. I feel that way about some of these shows that, they commission 10 episodes and they are bloated.
Yeah.
And they kind of don't know what to do with their middle episodes and they're spinning their wheels. And then all of a sudden you see in the 9th and 10th episodes them kind of getting back in the race and hitting the finish line. And it's
kind of like in comics. Remember when everyone was complaining, oh, they're just writing to the trade. They're like padding this out to fill the trade. And eventually I think comics figured it out. Like there's ways to make it serve as a single issue and have impact and also serve as a trade. And that was something we had to deal with Blood Oath. Like, some people are going to be reading this episodically every month. Some people are going to read it all as a trade and some people won't. And so you have to kind of gauge where are your cliffhangers, what's the big reveal, and how do you play it out? It's all part of the puzzle, I guess.
But making every episode matter. And Rob, I would imagine that's obviously something you're learning as you're, doing Blood Oath for the first time and everything. And, having, and I mean, I get different than obviously a book in chapters because again, you can have a thinking chapter or whatever from a layman's standpoint, but
it's almost like going from like a movie mentality to a TV mentality because it forces you to think much more episodically, where it's like this is an issue where like these are the things that need to be accomplished. This is what you're going to experience. And then you're going to have to wait a month for the next one, whereas when you write a novel, you just kind of like roll on through, and and it's one contiguous piece. So yeah, it's interesting to kind of like flex those muscles and learn how to tell a story in that context.
Beyond New York, and again, Rob, you're going as an attendee. Any convention plans for you guys with Blood Oath?
I mean, I'm doing that mystery conference in Chicago, and I'm starting to ramp up that whole part of my career now, just like doing cons and stuff, because before I was always on staff. And so if it was my, if my day job was going, then I would go and kind of take meetings when I could, but now I can set up a table or like just work a show. And now I get in, sometimes I'll get an invite, and that's kind of neat too. So, but no really firm. I'm doing Miami Book Fair at the end of November as well.
Oh, so, nice.
Yeah.
I got a few little things coming up. Like I'm doing something at the Harrison, New York Library, which I completely forgot about, and they emailed me about today to remind me in October, which was exciting. but no, it was actually like September was this month was my lunatic month, because I did the Library of Congress the first weekend, the second weekend was VoucherCon, and then the third weekend was the Albany Book Festival. And I haven't traveled to do events in so long. I mean, I've done a few bookstore things here and there, but like VoucherCon was the first time I got on a plane since the pandemic. And I just I forgot how to pack. Like, I was going down to DC, I was taking the train, and like got all the way down there and realized I left my toiletry kit at home. It's like, I just don't know how to pack for things anymore.
I understand. What was happening at the Library of Congress?
So that was the National Book Festival. So basically, like, this was actually kind of wild. The night before, so the festival is in like the convention center in DC, but the night before they had a VIP reception in the library itself. Which, initially I saw the thing, I was like, I'm gonna wear a button-down T-shirt because it's DC, it's the beginning of September, it's gonna be a swamp. And then I actually looked at it and saw that it was in the Library of Congress. I was like, I guess I better dress up. And it was nice. I was basically wandering around the Library of Congress with like unlimited access to both the library and to bottomless Prosecco.
That's nice.
Yeah, so I definitely stole a pencil. So like you can't not walk out of there with something at that point.
You need something, absolutely, man.
Well, now you answered that crime question. You've answered your have you ever committed a crime?
There we go.
Come full circle.
Yeah.
That's not quite stealing a towel from a hotel, but I can appreciate that. That's all right. That's all right. I know the ALA, the American Library Association, is going to have their show next summer here in Chicago. I don't know if you guys are thinking about coming for that.
Yeah, maybe. I think, we'll have, I think Blood Oath will be out by then. So,
yeah, I think I did the ALA once, but I think it was within maybe it was DC. I don't know. Okay. It was years ago.
I did Book Expo in DC. I did ALA in Dallas, I think it was. That was a weird show. It was right next to the book depository. You walk outside and you're God, I am in history. Like this.
Yeah,
happened.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I've been in Dealey Plaza. I know exactly what you're talking about, man. Yeah. Yikes. No, I love the ALA show. It is interesting, and it is more of a trade show than a con. But I really appreciated it, and it was fun to go to. And there are always like a dozen or two comic creators there, as well as novelists and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Well, honestly, guys, good luck with Blood Oath.
Thanks,
again,
man.
It's first issue's out now, and also Black Ghost as well from Comixology Originals, and Bad Beat. If you're curious about checking out Rob and Alex's novella that joins their detectives together and stuff, also available digitally on Amazon. And I look forward to hearing about the next novel or whatever the collaboration is that's coming up for you guys. That's terrific.
We'll let you know soon. Hopefully the news will be out in next couple of weeks or month or what have you.
Yeah, sure.
And good luck, Rob. I hope more comic books coming your way as well as novels.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks, absolutely, man.
Always a pleasure.
Really, likewise, and Rob, really good meeting you. Everybody, thank you for watching and listening. Great questions, and I'm trying to think. J.M. DeMatteis is joining me tomorrow night on Word Balloon Live.
He is the best. Just a nice guy.
I so agree. And growing up reading his stuff, not to age us all, but and then for him to become as good of a friend as he's become, it always blows my mind. It's like, oh, this is great, man. If only my 15-year-old self would have known that, even my 12-year-old self.
I read his Spectacular Spider-Man as a kid, like that whole Child Within with Sal, and just obviously he's written a bunch of other great stuff, but he reached out to me about Secret Identity and had some very nice things to say. And I was just like, it just blew my mind, when.
Shame on me, Alex. Absolutely. And that's another great book that everyone should pick up, Secret Identity. Definitely.
Oh, thanks.
Which was, of course, the basis of our last conversation.
Yeah.
So don't forget about that. And, of course, Rob and Alex's fine detective stuff as well. I mean, it's...
and Rob's got a new one, too, Paradox Hotel, that came out in February.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, man. Very cool.
Yeah,
Paradox Hotel, everybody. Very, very cool. And no, I agree with you about Mark DeMatteis. He's one of my favorites. For me, it was his Captain America run in particular that I adored.
It was one of my few fanboy moments at DC when we did this talent summit in Charlotte. And we did it in Charlotte because it was it's an airport hub, so anybody can get there from anywhere, I guess. And we were having dinner. I think it was me. I think the Dio was there, and so was Mark. And I just totally geeked out about Spectacular Spider-Man. I said I never do this, and he was obviously very gracious because he's just gracious all the time. But
sure,
I definitely remember taking my publicist hat off and just geeking out for a second because he's just been a huge influence.
I hear you, man. No, great writer, wonderful writer, and excited. He's got this new universe that he has assembled, and can't wait to talk to him about that. So that's tomorrow night.